Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, my podcast here at HR.com, where I'm executive community leader of Future of Payroll, and I do several other things. So many things, sometimes I forget some of the things that I do. But enough about me. My guest today is Willson Cross. Welcome, Willson.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the invite, and I'm pumped to be here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm pumped to have you here, too. You are the CEO of Borderless AI, which is an employer of record based out of Toronto. And I have probably woefully underdescribed your company. But in any event, what I like to ask every guest before we get into our topic, and ours is a really interesting one today. But I find everybody has a real passion in this space, in the world of work. And it's always nice to hear what motivates people, leaders in this space, when they get up every day. What keeps you going? What are you just passionate about solving in the world of work?
Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've only ever done startups, and I find the problem space in, EOR, global payroll, HR in general. There's a lot of intricacies, a lot of edge cases. Once you bring in cross-border, once you bring in payments technology, obviously AI, there's just a lot of complexities to solve. And I think what gets me going every morning and truly what kind of pumps me up and what I want to be known for is kind of organizing a lot of that and having a well-run ship, and having a product that customers love and feel like, they're a lot more organized, and their people operations is a lot more seamless at a global scale because we exist. So that's what gets me going in the morning, and that's what the team works on every day.
Oh, that's that's great. I mean, the EOR space is incredibly, it's crowded. There's a lot for folks that are
Yeah.
looking for a provider to kind of sift through.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for sure the world doesn't need another employer of record. I think the world needs a better employer of record, and we're bringing a customer obsession to the forefront of everything we do. I think, for those that remember the e-commerce boom, there was a lot of people that sold shoes online, but then the Zappos effect happened when Tony built a company that was very customer obsessed, and that was woven into everything they did, from the shipping and handling to the actual product. And we're trying to do that here in the EOR space, where we believe we're that front runner from a customer obsession point of view. The internet would agree we have the best ratings in the entire industry. But then obviously a seamless product driven by real-time payments technology and AI is leading to, what we believe is a superior offering, and something that we're standing behind.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought back sort of flashback memories of pets.com and the Super Bowl from that whole time area, the e-commerce boom. Those of us of a certain age have some fond, quirky memories of that time. Our topic today, just to kind of drill down a little bit into the EOR, the need for EORs and this sort of thing, is how EORs empower market entry and workforce agility. So before we really dive into that, what I've heard just speaking with folks in the industry and this sort of thing, there's a lot of HR folks just sort of twofold. They don't necessarily realize that EORs exist, that there's a thing called employers of record, A, and B, if they have heard of them, they don't necessarily, I don't want to say understand, it just hasn't occurred to them what an EOR actually does. Can you maybe give us a little bit of a primer here for those that are sort of uninitiated to this whole topic?
Certainly, yeah. So an employer of record enables companies, in our case, in a lot of employer records case, North American headquartered companies, it enables them to hire, onboard, manage, and pay an international employee in another market. And they do so because we, as an employer of record, have an entity, let's call it in Sweden. Therefore, we have the ticket to the game to have payroll in Sweden. The tax and compliance equivalent of things like an employment agreement in Sweden, the W2 version in Sweden, obviously everything to do around benefits, all the complexities around payroll, government deductions. So we already have that stood up in Sweden. So when you have a company headquartered in Manhattan that needs to onboard that engineer in Sweden, they can turn to an employer of record and onboard them to Borderless AI. And we really handle the rest for a simple flat monthly fee.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And that could be a really daunting scenario for an HR department to be in, right? Where maybe perhaps the organization has made the decision we need to expand into A, B, or C
Totally.
far-flung region of the world, right?
Yeah.
And the HR department suddenly is, okay, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah, you mentioned it a little bit at the start there when you launched into this topic. We think this is how the world's going to work, right? And the tailwinds and the data back it up. There's $1 billion getting added in revenue, real revenue, not vanity metrics, but real revenue. There's $1 billion getting added to the employer of record category every single year. And I think, as I talk to HR leaders a lot of days on sales calls, partnerships calls, conferences, a lot of folks still don't know EOR exists. And it really, I would say there's threefold. One, we view the employee just as much of a customer as we do the HR buyer. And from an employee lens, it really, empowers economic opportunity. You have this um, engineer in Mexico City, 10, 15 years ago, they weren't necessarily able to easily work for, a North American powerhouse technology company. But now, because employer of record platforms exist, this is happening every day around the world where you have, really talented engineers in Argentina, Mexico, parts of Northern Europe and Eastern Europe being able to work for large North American fast growing tech companies, the ones we always read about,
Hmm.
because this compliance and global payment infrastructure exists. Um, I would also say on the HR buyer side of the house, where you have, an HR manager, VP of people, head of HR, our customers, now obviously they're able to launch in new geographies a lot more seamlessly, whether that's they're launching a new market for market penetration, or they're buying a company in Europe, or they're setting up a sales division in the United Kingdom. So they can do that a lot more seamlessly. They can obviously benefit from cost efficiencies, right? Engineers in Spain and engineers in Mexico, maybe a little more affordable than engineers in the Bay Area or in New York. And then obviously there's other areas around speed to market. If you have a wider addressable recruiting pool and you're open to hiring engineers or sales individuals across Scandinavia or across Latin America, you're obviously going to have more shots on goal to find that best talent regardless of where they are in the world. So talent is what we like to say, talent is borderless. And all of a sudden, because employer of record platforms like Borderless exists, it enables HR teams to do this a lot more seamlessly, getting efficiencies in speed and time, getting efficiencies in cost, and being able to grow their business internationally.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing a lot in what you say that could be categorizable as workforce agility, right? And
That's just
that's,
it. Yeah, that's a great term.
yeah, yeah. Uh, w- And there's a lot of ROI there too, right? Because what would it, I mean, thinking about it to be able to sort of take a turnkey off the shelf off-the-shelf solution like an EOR, in this case, borderless AI. Um, Obviously, there's the fee involved. There's a fee involved, but it's so much more cost-effective than and honestly even possible versus trying to do it yourself as an organization, especially if you're a
Yep.
mid-sized organization. You may literally not, it's more than likely you literally do not have the in-house expertise to know how to employ somebody compliantly in any given region.
Totally. So, I mean, let's look at it a few different ways. So, let's say your team is you have a company headquartered in Boston, for instance, where you're not far from. You have a company headquartered in Boston. They're a mid-size, 100 to 150 person technology company in the logistics space, let's say, or e-commerce. Now they are wanting to hire engineers across Europe. They're ready to do that. Well, they're not necessarily going to want to set up an entity in Germany, set up an entity in Sweden, set up an entity in Norway. And the reason why is, one, that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of time investment there. You're talking 3 to 8 months to set up their own entity to onboard that talent. Two, it's not agile, right? They don't know, okay, are they going to get an engineer in Germany, or is it going to be in Sweden, right? Or maybe it's going to be in Turkey. So they don't know. So it's hard to have constant work. And then the cost, right? It's anywhere from 25,000, sometimes 100,000 to set up your own entity, all just to bring on one engineer, right, in Turkey. So it's not cost effective out of the gate. Number two, the talent, it's more affordable. An engineer downtown Boston, working full time, 6, 7 years out of college, maybe making 180, 200, 250,000 USD a year, whereas that cost is more like 150, 160,000 a year in maybe Sweden, right? So there's all of a sudden a cost benefit on talent. So now you can actually get more for your money and even more headcount in a different country because of the costs associated. I would also say once you do those two and pull those two levers, looking at an EOR, it's a no-brainer because, yeah, obviously you're paying for a vendor, an EOR, but the cost is, 90% more affordable than any sort of do-it-yourself avenue, or staying in the United States where you're going to pay top premium dollar for talent. So it's really an easy no-brainer from a cost perspective. But then there's a lot of, okay, which EOR do I go for, right? And as you mentioned, we're no stranger to the fact that it's a crowded market, and that's great, because in a crowded market, it forces market participants such as ourselves to build better products and better solutions. And the winner in that equation is the end consumer. They win, right? They get more selection, and ultimately they get more price. They get more savings. So we love it because we're customer obsessed, and as long as we continue to build the best product and solution in the EOR category, we think we'll be rewarded over time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And one of the things that I'm hearing that I just want to just trace and outline here is that, there are at least two sort of rationales to go with an EOR. One is if if your company has found that, hey, there's a demand that we need to meet in, say, I don't know, I'm just saying Sweden. It could be anywhere, right? In Sweden, and it would be cost effective for us or logistically possible for us to employ people there to meet that demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's delivery of some sort of product, right? Then that's a very specific new region that's been identified by the employing company, and that's a compelling rationale to work with an EOR. But another compelling rationale, and that I do believe was sort of the original raison d'etre of EORs if we go back about 10, 15 years and why they kind of arose, right? But the other one that's really emerging that's interesting to me, and for which EORs are uniquely or or especially positioned to 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 meet that this other need is that I just want to hire the best talent
The
anywhere
best
on the
talent. Yep.
planet.
Yep.
Work from anywhere is a thing. Everyone's working
Yep.
virtually. It's for some jobs, right? A lot of
Yeah.
desk
Totally.
jobs. That's the piece of it that's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
AI, how does AI factor into this, into an
Yeah.
EOR? Yeah.
Threefold. I would say first one is compliance and accuracy. Think about calculating government burdens and government mandates, payroll deductions in all these countries around the world every single day as we pay the workforce on behalf of our customers. So there's a lot of intricacies in doing that. Second piece, and AI can calculate a lot of the payroll. AI agents can automate and actually run payroll in a lot of cases. Second is compliance surrounding employment agreements and employment law, keeping up to date on the changing landscape of time off, wage and hour laws, state by state, country by country, right? Time and hour law very different from New York and California. You can almost imagine what it's like from New York and Sweden and Germany and Spain and Latvia, right? So a lot of changing dynamics around HR knowledge base, having the right HR and global employment law knowledge at your fingertips. And then I think I would say the third is cost, right? And price. You have a lot of old school analog legacy players in the employer of record space that have very high costs to operate their business. A lot of legal headcount, a lot of engineering headcount. And borderless, very, similar to what e-commerce companies did, whereby they have less of a cost structure. They don't have brick and mortar cost structure. They can have a great product and deliver that product for less and a better price than the incumbents and legacy providers that came before them. So because of AI, we see a lot of efficiencies in our business, and we can hand those savings off to our customers. So those
Oh,
are
that's
three key reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I'm hearing is that the artificial intelligence can help um, can be an asset to the EOR and then by corollary to the customer because
The customer
it's
wins. The customer, because of AI, the customer will always win because AI is eroding a lot of the needs for these high cost, fixed cost structures so we can hand off these savings to the customer. So just putting the customer first in everything we do. And then with the advent of AI, it's we call it luck, call it opportunistic, but we've been able to really harness that technology and a platform of AI agents that really enables our customers to get a wonderful product and service, the best in class payroll timelines. We pay folks across the world in 5 days. Market standard is 20. So we can do all that because AI leads to a better experience and then obviously a better cost.
and just to put an exclamation point or a fine point on that, right? I mean, what you're saying makes sense because of it, agentic AI is and AI in general is coming in and it is doing things that humans used to do on their own solo, right?
Yep.
And it's introducing efficiencies in this way, in these ways that we heretofore unprecedented efficiencies, right? And it's expanding our concept of what automation can be and all these sorts of things. And so the lurch toward, I'll call it, that's a negative word. The move toward using agentic AI and all that sort of stuff to mitigate those repetitive tasks or those
Yep.
more yeoman tasks to unearth newfound efficiencies and thus save money. That's happening across the board. So it stands to reason that an EOR would be able to avail itself of those types of capabilities as well.
Yeah, and I would say AI is coming for every vertical, every industry, and I would not be the first to say that. so, so many people would say that. I would say, however, the EOR space is very ripe for AI disruption because you see this convergence of, okay, we're a technology company, right? At the end of the day, AI is making software engineers more efficient. There are AI agents that can do level entry, intermediate software engineering tasks and write code and build products, right? Those AI engineers, you don't pay them and they work 24/7, right? So an AI agent is actually writing the software. In the other vein, we're in the business of HR law, right? There's a lot of employment law and employment best practices where legal is another area that is really getting disrupted through AI. Drafting of contracts, best practices, even giving advice. And then third, HR. HR has a lot of annoying, repetitive tasks that HR professionals would be happy for AI to take over. So really kind of those three avenues make the EOR space very ripe for AI disruption. Now everybody's going to do it, right? Everybody's going to have an AI agent here and brand their AI thing AI there. But we are actually the only EOR company to have launched in the post chat GPT era. So we have actually built the company from the ground up with best in class AI, best in class payments, leading to a very very healthy customer experience.
Kind of like Gen Z being digital natives, Borderless AI being AI native
Yeah,
company.
and it's there. I don't think there's any. I don't. If you look at all the breakout successes in consumer, I think with consumer apps, there's no it's no coincidence that they've all been built by that Gen Z or that generation that's been building at that time. Similar to us, if you think, okay, who's going to lead the race in the AI for EOR space? It's obvious it's probably going to be a company that's launched post Chat GPT with one of the largest large language models, Cohere, as an investor.
Very interesting. Just looking at the time, I want to be mindful of that. But I do have another question for you that I think would put some icing on this cake. What do you think the next frontier is for workforce agility within the context of EORs, work from anywhere, and this sort of thing? Like we've talked about efficiencies, we've talked about being able to pivot and employ people wherever. Where do you think this is going? How would EOR sort of factor into this, the EORs that are forward thinking enough?
I think the interesting kind of head scratcher is what EORs are going to go for it all, and how are they going to go for it all. And if you put the customer, and what I mean by that is if you put the customer first, customers will want one platform, right? They want one platform to do everything domestically. They want an HRIS, they want an ATS, and then they want everything for global. So how are the EOR companies going to adapt? And how are legacy HRIS companies going to adapt? Are you going to have the ADPs of the world? Are you going to have the Paychecks of the world, add EOR solutions? How are they going to add those solutions? Are they going to do it, with a marketplace listing? Are they going to go acquire EORs, right? And then from the other side, how are EOR companies going to do that? Are they going to do it best-in-class integrations, right? Are they going to be able to integrate, a company like Borderless, integrations with Bamboo HR, for instance, integrations with ADP Workforce Now, or are these EOR companies going to build it themselves, right? Are they going to say, no, we're the experts. We're going to go after the $150 billion market cap ADP, and we're gonna build our own products and services to compete with ADP. So I think that's an interesting way of how EORs are going to kind of see that next wave of growth, is how are they going to really put the customer first and say, hey, the customer wants everything in one. They want one platform. And how are they going to go about doing that? And I think AI actually enables us to do a lot of that, and do that well. So that's another area why we're big AI believers. It's in our name.
Yeah, it is indeed. This is really fascinating stuff. It's always great to talk about what EORs are and where they're going and how they can differentiate themselves and sort of get to that next level of of utility when it comes to their customers' needs. Willson, thank you so much for joining us today for the podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. This meant a lot. So thank you for the time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.